So according to Kleiber's law, our next logical step in becoming more energy efficient is creating a planetary organism. But this new organism will have to have a nervous system with a brain. But what is a brain?
The right way to think about the brain is like a neural parliament, where you have different political parties and they're always battling it out to control your behavior. For example, if I put a chocolate chip cookie in front of you, part of your brain really wants that chocolate chip cookie, and part of your brain says, don't eat it, you're gonna get fat. And there's an arm wrestling between these political parties. And there's only one output channel for behavior, but you can have lots of competing factions.
And we would probably want this brain to be conscious. But what is consciousness?
I think of consciousness like the CEO of a large corporation. When a company is small, it doesn't need a CEO. But once an organization reaches sufficient size and complexity, then it needs someone to rise above the daily details and take the long view.
In the event of an internal conflict, your conscious mind tries to work out what's best and make an executive decision. Consciousness is the arbiter of conflicting motivations in the brain. It has a unique vantage point, one that no other part of the brain has access to.
Think of consciousness as a way for trillions of cells to see themselves as a unified whole. It's a way for a complex system to hold up a mirror to itself.
So if we are the cells of this organism, can many of us create consciousness?
James realized that individual ants in a superorganism behave like the neurons in a single primate brain.
So I think ants collectively process information in a very interesting way. No individual ant needs to know all the details about its environment. But by having a little bit of information and aggregating it together at the colony level, the colony can be well informed about the decision it's making, even if individual ants are less well informed. And that's analogous to neurons in the brain. No individual neuron really knows anything, but you stick a load of them together and collectively the brain does know something.
Put enough ants together and bang, you get a superorganism with sophisticated properties that don't belong to any of the parts. And this is the concept of emergent properties. Put enough simple units together and have them interact in the right ways, and something larger emerges. The concept of emergent properties offers a possible way to understand how the vast neural populations of the brain might produce consciousness. And it gives rise to a question. Could consciousness emerge from anything that has lots of interacting parts? Could a city be conscious? Or maybe it's not enough to have lots of simple pieces interacting. Maybe the parts need to interact in very specific ways.
So in what ways do we need to interact to create consciousness? Let's see how nature does it.
The process is called morphogenesis, and it's very puzzling. At first, all the cells in the embryo are identical. Then, as this footage of a fish embryo shows, the cells begin to clump together and also become different from each other. How does this happen? With no thought, no central coordination. How do cells that start off identical know to become, say, skin, while others become part of an eye?
For instance, a kind of regulatory gene called gap genes are responsible for telling the blastula, that little hollow ball of cells that forms during the early stages of development, like, make a mouth here and let's put an anus over on this other end.
So all of the organs, including the brain, which contains consciousness, are created based on the instructions in the DNA. All the complexity of an organism, including consciousness, arises from a piece of software, which is used by all the cells, which is transparent to all of them, and which is not controlled by any single cell or a small group of cells. And that's how we should create the new organism as well, because the technology to do so is already available.
So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a revolutionary technology that enables a new way to send payments over the internet. You can think of it as an open accounting system where thousands of computers all over the world work together to track ownership of digital tokens called bitcoins. When you send someone bitcoins, the transaction is broadcast to the entire network. After it's verified, it's recorded in a public ledger called the blockchain. The blockchain contains a record of every Bitcoin transaction that has occurred since the system began, and it's shared and maintained on the network, so everyone keeps the books, so to speak.
Bitcoin is an open source software protocol, like much of the code supporting the internet and email. Open source means anyone, everyone can use the protocol. No one person or company can control it. Every change to the software is public, open, and transparent.
Right now, we're using Bitcoin to send money, but many believe it will revolutionize much more. The technology behind Bitcoin can be used to build decentralized systems with rules that can't be cheated.
We think that Bitcoin is just another way to pay for a cup of coffee, but it's not. Bitcoin is just the denomination used to pay the toll to put stuff on this global ledger. Now, if you think about it, timestamp recordings of deaths, births, property, transactions, votes, this is the entire fabric of our civilization, which makes the blockchain one of the most profound human innovations of our time, because having a massive global ledger as a public utility can completely reorganize the way that we run our societies.
Who's in charge when nobody is in charge? Or in other words, how are decisions in a network of people made when there is no Shah or King or CEO or President in charge? This question has never been more relevant in cryptocurrency.
Ethereum is an open source platform to build, distribute next-generation decentralized applications. That is, applications that have no middlemen, where users interact with social systems, financial systems, gaming interfaces, all in a peer-to-peer fashion. Because the Ethereum network will be distributed on hundreds of thousands of computers around the globe, this all takes place on a censorship-proof foundation.
So by creating an open source software that uses a blockchain as its database, we will have a very similar mechanism to the DNA. We will be able to program it in such a way that it has the incentives for the self-organization of the users into all the different organs the new organism might need. And the only way to change the program will be by getting a critical mass of the users to vote in favor of the changes to take place. So we will all be able to participate in writing the code and changing it.